One morning in Vienna, 1884, a man wakes up, snorts a little white powder he calls his miracle drug, and writes to his fiancée, "I feel wonderful, like a god." A few years later, this same guy invents therapy. The man who created modern psychology started his day with cocaine and self-reflection. This is Sigmund Freud, the man who turned your dreams, your crushes, and your mistakes into science. Sigmund Freud, the OG analyst of the human condition, the man who made everything about you, but in a deeply fascinating and, let's be honest, kinda creepy way. For most of the 20th century, people dismissed him as a weird, coke-promoting old dude from Vienna. But now, in a plot twist nobody saw coming, he's having a massive comeback. Gen Z, a generation he would have found baffling, is turning his century-old theories into TikTok trends, relationship advice, and the internet's favorite brand of highbrow memes. He's become our problematic fave, and the reason why is actually wild. Part 1. The Making of a Mind Hunter. Freud was born in 1856 in the Austrian Empire. He was a brilliant, shy, and intensely ambitious Jewish kid growing up in Vienna. Basically, the kind of overthinker who would be mercilessly roasted on TikTok for being too intense. And get this, he never wanted to be a therapist. His first scientific passion was eels. No, seriously. As a young, broke scientist, he spent an entire summer dissecting over 400 eels, desperately trying to find their male reproductive organs. He failed, by the way, but this obsessive, frustrating search for a hidden truth? It was the perfect training for what came next, hunting for the hidden parts of the human mind. Then, he found a new obsession, cocaine. In the 1880s, long before it was a street drug, he saw it as a miracle cure. He wasn't just using it, he became its biggest evangelist. He wrote a paper called Über Coca, on coca, hailing it as a wonder drug that could cure everything from depression to indigestion. He gave it to his friends, his fiancée, his patients. For a brief, shining moment, he genuinely believed he'd found the key to unlocking human potential. But behind the ambition and the weird science was a man haunted by a strict father, constant money problems, and a brain that simply refused to shut up. This is the guy who would go on to map the geography of our deepest anxieties. Part 2, the theories that broke everyone's brain. Then comes the year, 1900. Freud drops his masterpiece, The Interpretation of Dreams, and suddenly, the human mind has a dark, messy, and fascinating new rulebook. He made a bold claim. Your dreams aren't random nonsense. They are, in his words, the royal road to the unconscious. Every weird dream, every embarrassing slip of the tongue, like calling your teacher mom, or accidentally saying your ex's name when you're with your new partner, yikes, is your hidden self trying to send you a message. He gave us the blueprint for our internal chaos. Here's the breakdown. The id, your primal, instinct-driven self. It's the toddler in your brain screaming, "I want that dopamine hit, that slice of pizza, and I want it now." It operates on pure pleasure. The superego, your internalized parent and society's rulebook constantly judging you. It's the voice that whispers, "You're not doing enough," or "Why are you so awkward?" It strives for moral perfection. The ego, you, the poor, stressed-out manager in the middle, trying to negotiate a peace treaty between the wild beast and the harsh critic, so you can just get through a Monday. Okay, pause. Here's a gold nugget you can use today. Ever find yourself spiraling, rereading a text 50 times, or imagining the worst-case scenario after a weird social interaction? That is a classic ID versus superego battle. Your id craves immediate validation. They have to text back now. Superego is forecasting your social doom. You probably sounded so stupid. Actionable tip. The next time you feel that anxiety spiral, literally name the players. Say to yourself, okay, my ID is freaking out, and my superego is being a jerk. Just identifying these forces can create enough distance for your ego, for you, to take a breath and calm down. course. He didn't stop there. He gave us the infamous Oedipus complex, the theory that children have an unconscious, complicated attraction to the parent of the opposite sex and a rivalry with the same-sex parent. It sounds wild, but it was his attempt to explain the messy, intense dynamics of family life and how those early relationships shape our future romantic choices. Ever heard the phrase, daddy issues? You can thank Freud for that. And if that wasn't dramatic enough, he later proposed the death drive, or thanatos. It's the idea that a part of us is unconsciously drawn toward chaos, stillness, and self-destruction. That 3 a.m. doom scroll through bad news, even when you know it's wrecking your mental health? Classic death drive, folks. Part 3. Why Gen Z dug him up. So, why is a guy who died in 1939 suddenly all over our For You page? Simple. Gen Z is the most mental health aware generation in history. We talk openly about trauma, attachment styles, which are a direct evolution of his work on early childhood, inner child work, and toxic family dynamics. And Freud, well, he wrote the original vocabulary for all of it. And we don't just talk, we take action. A 2022 survey from the American Psychological Association showed that nearly 42% of Gen Z have received treatment from a mental health professional, a higher rate than any previous generation. We've normalized therapy. He gave us the ultimate cheat sheet for overthinking. We don't worship him as a perfect scientist. We roast him. We meme him. We call out his outdated and often sexist views. But we use his framework to understand the beautiful, anxious mess of our own minds. And here's another practical takeaway. Freud's life offers a hidden lesson for our burnout generation. He worked relentlessly through pain, illness, and controversy. But he also deeply valued rest, reflection, and analyzing his own dreams. In our 24/7 hustle culture, Freud reminds us that introspection is also productive work. Journaling, therapy, or just sitting and thinking about why you are the way you are isn't lazy. It's essential maintenance for your mind. Part 4. The man behind the theories. But here's the thing about Freud. For a guy who mapped the human psyche, he was a walking contradiction. He was diagnosed with jaw cancer and endured 33 agonizing surgeries over 16 years. He wore a bulky, painful prosthesis in his mouth just to speak and eat. The man who analyzed psychological pain spent his last years in constant physical pain himself. He was also weird. He had a crippling phobia of ferns. He was obsessed with collecting ancient statues, over 2,000 of them, filling his office like a museum. And he believed his dog, a Chow Chow named Jofi, could read people's emotional states. He would bring Jofi into therapy sessions, believing the dog was a perfect judge of character. He claimed Jofi would stay calm with calm patients, but would get anxious and move away from those who were tense or hiding something. He literally used his dog as an anxiety detector. Conclusion. So, why does Gen Z have this strange reverence for Freud? Because he was the first to look at the human experience and say, you are not in control. You are a messy, contradictory, anxious, and chaotic being, driven by forces you don't even understand. And for a generation raised on curated Instagram feeds and the pressure to present a perfect, stable self, that idea is incredibly liberating. Freud's work isn't perfect science, but it's perfect poetry for the anxious mind. He built the room, set up the mirrors, and gave us permission to look at ourselves, even if what we see is weird, or it hurts, or it's hilariously absurd. A century later, it's clear. Freud isn't just living rent-free in our heads. He built the whole apartment.